Yo, 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 welcome back, everybody. Welcome to the Black Perspective Podcast. I'm your host, Galore, and I'm here with a returning special guest from the previous season, Mr. Richard Adamson, also known as Mr. Urban Journalist. For those who know Mr. Urban Journalist, say what's up to the people for us.
Hey, what's going on? It's good to be back. I'm formerly known as Urban Journalist. That was my rap name when I was with the group ESP. I'm grateful to be back. My brother Talk Galore, I appreciate you. I'm definitely a supporter of Talk Galore. Please support him because he's always promoting positivity.
Thank you. Okay, we have many topics to talk about, but I want to address something first because I live in New York City as well as you do too. And we have many problems in our communities that's not really being spoken on, or not enough people are speaking up about it. What do you feel is a problem that we need to fix?
In our own backyard, I definitely feel like, first, I don't live in New York City. I'm in Lower Westchester County, but to me, there's not much of a difference. It's just a higher volume down there. But I feel that one of the problems we need to fix is the violence. The violence is a big problem because it's an expression of self-hatred. When we kill each other, that's an expression of not liking ourselves. And it's also a practice in some of our subcultures that's not good. Violence being the answer to things. So that's one of the things I think that we need to fix. And one of the only ways to fix that outside of God himself, we need to stop teaching the kids so much about shoots and guns and dancing. We need to start teaching about God again. But we also have to include proper communication. If we don't teach the youth how to communicate, we don't teach our community how to properly communicate, then we're in trouble.
Okay. Yes, I totally agree. I have one solution I've been wanting to advocate for as long as I can. And I feel like our community centers, they've been disappearing left and right, and we don't have them as much as we used to have them. So now I feel like our children and other people are just out in the streets with nothing to do. And I feel like the last thing that comes to mind, which is now the first thing, is violence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I've had to explain to older people that one of the reasons why you see what you see amongst the younger people now is because they no longer have the world that the older generation had. And I know people don't like to hear that. They think it's an excuse, but it's true. A lot of community programs are about funding more than the human being. So it's about looking good on paper, getting money, and then the money disappears, right? And then families are broken down. You don't have a lot of families anymore. You have children and babies being born, but you don't have families. So if I'm born into this world feeling unwanted, that automatically promotes anger.
Okay, I mean, that sums it up for everybody who's listening. That's our thoughts on that. Hopefully you guys take heed to that and also try to do your part as well as in trying to uplift our own Black communities around the world. Now let's get into some topics I want to talk about. I want to talk about R. Kelly.
Okay.
He's recently, I'm pretty sure you heard the trials going on. He's been in jail quite some time now. And I want to talk about, there was this documentary that was released. I can't remember the name of it, but it was, I believe, dealing with R. Kelly or something like that. Some of those lines. And they have this thing where they're showing that a lot of these parents was involved in letting their children be around this man, go with him private places, things of that nature, as long as they were paid. And a lot of the parents are not getting in trouble for the same exact things. For helping correspond what happened with him and the teenagers allegedly and things of that nature. And I want to know, what is your thoughts on, do you feel like the parents should be doing jail time as well? Let me say it that way. Should they be doing jail time as well with R. Kelly, in spite of just him doing it by himself, even though that they played a bigger part in it and allowing their children and accepting money to be with them?
Well, I'll say this. I'm not a legal professional, so I'm not going to say, whether or not they should have gone to jail or who should have gone to jail. But I will say this, though. As a person who has been involved with human services for 20 years, I've worked alongside law enforcement and with other community programs to help people. I have an issue with fake outrage. I have an issue with partial justice. As a black man, I have an issue with partial justice. Children were hurt. The entire country knew what was going on, right? Including some of the parents. I have daughters. I don't have any sons, okay? You can't take my daughter nowhere, especially if I know that you are known for hurting children and violating children. And so sometimes the way the justice system handles things in this country and the media handles things in this country, it makes me wonder, are people really concerned about justice? Or is it just because somebody's now out of style now and all the money's been made and that's it now? Because we knew this for 20 years. We knew children were missing and hurting and being seen on video for 20 years. And 20 years later, after the children are now full-grown, damaged people, I mean, I have a serious issue with that, because as a person who is in ministry and as a person who is involved in human services, right? I have to put myself in my client's shoes. If I'm trapped somewhere, being tortured sexually, mentally, everything, I wouldn't want somebody to wait 20 years to come and help me.
Exactly.
The documentaries are fine. Did he need to go to jail? Absolutely he does. But it seems like outside of that, nobody cares about anything else. The issue that I have with that is this situation is much more complicated than that. So how dare you say that nothing else matters? It doesn't matter what this person did, what the parents did. If I'm a victim, if my children are a victim, I want all involved parties to answer to me and the authorities. So just honestly, what I am seeing, and speaking as a man, speaking as a protector, speaking as a leader, right? I'm very disturbed by what I see with some of these cases. Because, I've been in situations where I've reached out for justice and I haven't gotten it right away, right? So while I'm waiting for somebody to give me justice, the torture continues, the damage continues. And so, I have a huge issue with how it was handled, because the evidence was all over the street. Videos, people, I don't know how many people saw sex tapes.
Exactly.
And
went viral, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. So are you really outraged? So that's, I don't like phony passion or phony outrage. I'm not with that. So that's the best I can answer that question. But somebody who has daughters, somebody who has fought to get one of their children out of the system, right? The reason why my perspective would take it a little different is because of what I went through, my profession and my story. I wouldn't want somebody to wait 20 years to save my child, especially after all the evidence was there. So what's the reason that it took you 20 plus years? So,
you know what? I can attest to that because I wonder myself the same thing. It took you guys 20 years, and when you said something that stuck out there, you said when the money was already made, and that I can agree to because as long as this man was making them money, Hollywood in particular, I believe, allegedly, there was no reason to bother this man, despite the fact that all of these incidents, happening back to back. And now that these not making any more money, I feel like now they're trying to attack him now.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a good point, Galore. I don't really know what the motive was, but I know that our society, our nation, our country knew what was going on. And so it just puzzles me that now there's like this outrage now. And I mean, don't get me wrong, the outrage is necessary because like I said, I'm a father who fought for his daughter and to be taken out of the system, so I fought to protect my child, right? I won't go into detail with things that happened.
Yeah, you don't need to.
But but all I'm saying is that I didn't wait till she was 20 something. It's right now. You know what I'm saying? A child needs help. It's right now. And in my profession, I've had to defend victims. It's right now. Right? Anybody that's ever had a problem with me defending victims, right, throughout my career, the reason why is because I pushed. It's right now. What are you waiting for? You got enough testimonies. We got enough evidence. What are you waiting for? That's the type of person I am. As a grown man, you shouldn't have to tell me 7 times that the house is on fire before I start trying to save my own life and my family's, right? It's right now. So when you hesitate, that makes you look suspicious to me. Our society hesitated for 20 plus years with R. Kelly. So what are you really telling me?
I agree. Yeah, because I'm thinking about it now. I want to talk about another point you brought up. You said you're not into, as a black man, you're not with, I believe you said half justice, something along the line. I can't remember the
partial justice.
Partial justice.
Yeah.
Yes. Because there are a lot of our counterparts who are deliberately doing the same exact thing, and our country knows about it, but these guys are not being put on Front Street. These guys are not being accountable for what they're doing. But us as people, we're the ones being put in front of a camera, fingers being pointed at, everything coming to light when it comes to our people. But a lot of these guys are doing the same thing. I don't need to mention any names, but people can do their research and understand there's a lot of our counterparts who are doing even worse than what R. Kelly was allegedly supposed to be doing. And these guys are walking the streets, these guys are getting tributes done to them and all kinds of things. And that right there is what bothers me the most, because it's like the one thing we ask for in this country is fairness and equality. And we're so far from getting that a lot of the true outrage, people who are really upset, people who've been upset for 20 something years, let's just say it that way, over the BS that's going on in the world. And I feel like that's really hurting us, and that's what's really building the anger that we have because of the unfair system that we're having, because of our counterparts doing the same exact things and getting all scot-free or getting time for whatever it is that they're doing. What's your point of view on that part, specifically about the partial justice?
Well, here's the thing. Like I said, as a black man, I have a big issue with partial justice, not only because of my own experience, but our history. You follow what I'm saying? But I will say this, right? I'm not with defending anybody that's hurting people, right? Whether R. Kelly is black, whether Bill Cosby is black, we don't know all the facts to everything, but if they did something, I'll be the first one to say that they need to pay the price. Here's my problem, though. When it comes to justice, I need to understand that I need to know and feel comfortable that the outrage and the passion is real. You know what I'm saying? And what I see, I'm just telling you what I see in the media, right? Um, what I see is the black man being made the face of rape, sexism, and abuse, right? And the reason why I have a problem with that, because that is not the large majority of us. You do have many of us that do those things, but there are many of us who do not approve of that behavior. But when you see us on TV, us in the paper, us, it creates a narrative that is not true. We are not the face of rape. We are not the leading rapists and domestic abusers. We are not. Do some of us do that? Of course, right? But my issue is the partiality when it comes to defaming a group of people. Because you got to understand, if they were to put my face on TV tomorrow, that would impact you, Brother Galore. That would impact a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? That will impact a lot of black men, because when we are made the face of rape, then people view us as animals. It becomes easier to kill us, lock us up, and make us pay for what we're not doing, right? I adamantly say, I don't care what anybody says, I am not an R. Kelly. You are not an R. Kelly, right? But so many times we have to pay for what other people do because of the narratives that the media puts out, right? So there is this agenda that I see, right? I don't have any proof except for what we could look up, research, and read, where the image of the black man is always tarnished, because they'll take the number of us that are guilty and then they'll create a narrative for all of us, right? And that is divisive, it's intentional, and that's a problem, because we're not all rapists. We don't all beat our women. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I often have to tell my sisters, when I read some of these Facebook comments and they say, "Oh, stop saying it's a race thing." No, I cannot stop saying that. Because if the only reason why you're incarcerating the Bill Cosbys or going after the R. Kellys for a different agenda, then you don't really care about the victims. Because it's about the victims. Let me just say that. It's about the victims. However, I have a right to be an individual. Don't subscribe me to a group by creating a narrative that it is all of us. Okay? Black men as a whole do not approve of rape, pedophilia, and domestic violence. So when you constantly use a black face every time to make, when you pay more attention to the black cases, then you're creating a narrative and you're creating an idea. And the bad thing about it is it's false. It would be okay if it was true. If we were all like that, then hey, the truth is the truth. But when you create a false narrative, you're lying. And the media and the newspapers are forms of communication and not supposed to be used to spread lies. Every black man is not a Bill Cosby and R. Kelly and all of that. And I just see, when I watch some of these news reports and documentaries, I see the subtle messages that people sometimes maybe don't. I'm sure I'm not the only one that sees them, because you did ask me the questions, which means you've seen some stuff. But it's very disturbing and it's very divisive, and it's scary for men like me and men like yourself, because we pay for the crimes of other black people, especially when the black male image is tarnished and made to look like we all think like animals. I mean, just some of the narratives about us are terrifying. It terrifies me, because I have daughters, and I don't want them to think that their father comes from a group or agenda that is hypersexualized all the time, and all we do is think about sex, and just a lot of the stereotypes about black men, that we think all white women are easy or weak, and that is not how I think. I think that a woman is a woman. You know what I'm saying? I do believe that black women are discriminated against probably a little more severe, but I believe that a woman is a woman. I don't condone rape, domestic violence, or abuse, or none of that stuff. So when they constantly use a black face especially a black male face. That's disturbing because throughout my life I've experienced pain for the crimes of other black people. That's why my parents used to have to say, you got to be careful how you dress. Right when Trayvon Martin got shot, it's because he was wearing a hoodie. Right, and people wearing hoodies have supposedly robbed people and pulled out guns on people. So one of the factors that was brought up in the cause of him being profiled was wearing a hood, because criminals have wore hoods. You understand what I'm saying? So this is what you see on TV in the gangster rap video.
Yeah, so there is an agenda to do that. Like people say that, oh, we're just trying to be honest, we're just trying to get to the truth. No, you're not. People can use the truth as a weapon, and they can manipulate facts, and that's what they do. That's why I don't trust all research. I don't trust all research because, like I said, as a person involved in ministry with community and with human services, I've seen stories and data hidden, and I've had to fight against it. But I've seen witnesses come forward and say this really did happen, and everybody just throw it under the bus. So how can you have proper surveys and research with evidence hidden? That's obstruction of justice.
Yeah, I agree with you just said something that stuck out because I wanted to bring that up. There was a young lady that was on the documentary who has come forward and said that her portion of the documentary was not true.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, this recently just came out, and the fact that a lot of the other people's testimonies weren't fully true either. So now this man might have been lied on.
And
it's
I didn't know that anybody came forward and said that.
Yeah, I forgot the lady. She's in Chicago. I forgot her name directly, but let's just say she's a streetwalker. And yeah, she came forward and she made that statement. So now it's kind of even more upsetting that y'all putting this man through this for nothing. If everything that's on a documentary and the fact that y'all put his face on camera, put everything in Front Street for even younger kids to know about what's going on, for this to be false. So it's a little bothersome to me too as well. But that has recently just been outed. Mm-hmm. Now I wanna. Do you feel like people need to?
Do you think it could be? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Say what you're gonna say. Go ahead. No problem.
No. Do you think that? Because I'm not gonna lie to you. I do believe that he did some stuff. I do believe he's guilty to a certain extent. Do you believe that it could have been embellished or maybe like stuff added? Because people do that. You remember that game Telephone? By the time it gets to the next person, the story is crazy.
Yeah, that's what I feel like happened as well. I know he has done some of it. I mean, there's got to be some truth to it, but a lot of it was embellished, I believe. So,
okay.
But I want to talk about. Let's talk about R. Kelly and let's talk about his music, because a lot of people are trying to correspond his music to how he was acting, but I feel like people sometimes should differentiate the man from the music, because the man, he's who he is. Whatever happened, we can't change that. But the music that he made was, I would like to say, it was top notch. It was love music. It brought families together. It brought cookouts together. It brought many of happy times together listening to his music. And I don't feel like it's fair for people to tell themselves that they're not going to listen to his music no more because of what happened. So I feel like more, do you agree or disagree that a lot of people need to differentiate the music from the artist himself?
That's hard to say. And the reason why I brought the Galore is because I can't tell people how to feel. Like, for anybody else that has been a victim, right? They may not have been a victim of R. Kelly, but if they've ever been victimized, seeing that on the news and seeing that triggers memories and feelings, right? Like, case in point, my father was shot by the police, right? So whenever I see anything about a police shooting on TV, It doesn't make me hate all police, but it does trigger feelings. So I guess a lot of the people, I'm assuming, right, this would be my guess, a lot of the people who are saying things like that, like I can't look at him the same or can't listen to his music, maybe they've experienced some type of trauma. In my profession, you know, I've had to make a lot of mental health referrals, and sometimes it's because people have triggers to their memories. Like the perpetrator might be long gone or dead, but certain things, a song, a sound, a smell, can bring back a memory because it's a trigger. Now, the issue that I do have is that some people in the public eye posture, and posture meaning like fake outrage. They pretend, like some people latch on to a cause just to get some publicity. That, you know, if they're saying, for people whose motives are not right in saying what they're saying, then yeah, I highly disagree with that, because you shouldn't use the pain and the violation and the injustice of somebody to just express hate. You know, and some people do that. So a lot of people who are saying that just would have, they've been saying that in their heart anyway, but now they're using this as a way to, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
to express disdain for somebody. We live in a divisive society.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. We do live in a divisive society, which I feel like it does. It's doing more damage than it does good, instead of us being one nation as we should.
Right.
But there you go, folks. That's my thoughts on the R. Kelly situation. That's Mr. Urban Journalist himself, Mr. Richard Adamson II. Those are his thoughts on this whole R. Kelly ordeal. We'll be right back with some more topics right after this message.
You know, when your mind is cluttered, you know what I'm saying, the streets keep constantly trying to pull you into it. It's crazy, you know? Yeah. These are the chronicles of a soldier. The world around me is getting colder. America seems to want to make me break. How much pressure can a man's mind take? I'm close to the edge, approaching the code red. I stay in the booth trying to clear my head. These are the chronicles of a soldier. The world around me is getting colder. America seems to want to make me break. How much pressure can a man's mind take? I'm close to the edge, approaching the code red. I stay in the booth trying to clear my head. But it's over. But it's over.
Welcome back to the Black Perspective Podcast. I'm here with Mr. Richard Adamson II, also known as Mr. Urban Journalist. And now we're going to jump into another topic of discussion that has transpired recently. Not too recent, but recently. I want to talk about the Will Smith and the Chris Rock situation, and Jada Pinkett as well. There's people now, after seeing this video and after seeing what transpired at the Oscars, that a lot of people are calling Will Smith a simp for that. And as a black man who loves his black women, how do you feel the fact that they're calling this man that, the fact that he's showing, or at least trying to show his wife that he really loves her? Because there's been a lot of backlash from previous incidents dealing with Jada Pinkett, and a lot of people are being upset because Will Smith is still there. He's still by her side. He didn't leave her yet, and he's just dealing with it. They have him on memes. He's crying and all those things of that nature. And as a black man, it's enough for us that we can't cry. That's what they're putting us, that we're not allowed to cry. So that when we have somebody who's outraged about a situation that they're going through, and they're expressing themselves by shedding a few tears here and there about the woman they love, and the fact that what they're going through, and the people are downplaying this as if he's, again, a simp for doing what he did with Chris Rock. I don't think he should have done that, only because I'm not with the whole black on black thing. But the fact that he has done it already, people are saying that he's a simp. What are your thoughts on the fact of people calling him that?
Well, I'll say this. Wow. Just the fact that we're talking about this is, I can't. I'll say this. There are a lot of hypocrites in our society. Our society as a whole sometimes can be hypocritical. Um, Black men are constantly, um, subliminally and psychologically, pressured to be violent, to be aggressive, right? Um, like people love to say, "Oh, there's no excuse," and I'm not saying that there is an excuse, but I am saying that there are some contributing factors, and I believe I have a right to say that, because if we say that we love truth the way we pretend to love truth in our society, then we have to understand that there are some contributing factors. There is always, whether you're famous or whether you're the everyday guy, right? When a black man, especially, is not aggressive, if he can't box, if he can't throw his hands, if he don't, defend his woman with violence, then he's questioned. So I think that Will Smith was under a lot of pressure. Do I agree with what he did? Absolutely not. No. And there's a whole lot of reasons why I don't agree with it. We'll get into that, I guess, if we have time. But, um, the issue that I have with our society is that we give men, right? And I'm not saying that this doesn't happen to women. Let me just put that out there. But we're talking about men right now, right? Which is what we don't do enough. There's these two messages that we get, you know, be a gentleman. Don't act like an animal. I've even had people say to me when I was a kid, act your age, not your color. You know what I'm saying? So there's this thing with, don't act this way because this is how black men are perceived. So you say, okay, so I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to be aggressive, right? But then on the flip side, you're looked at as weak and you're treated as weak. So when people say, oh, I don't care what people think, or you shouldn't care what people think, I think it's oversimplifying it. Because if you're viewed as a black man that can't fight, is not aggressive, is not strong-willed, you're not only viewed a certain way, but you are treated a certain way. You know what I'm saying? By no means, right, am I a punk. But being that my father was shot by the police, he always told me, try your best to find, my whole family told me this, try your best to find a different way than being violent. So I said, okay, I was raised under the Martin Luther King ideology. And so I tried my best. However, I was targeted because of it, because people took it like, oh, Rich ain't gonna fight, so you could do this to him. And then it even spilled over into my relationships where because I wasn't quick to curse somebody out or get in somebody's face, the women question me. And it's hurtful. So we as black men are under a lot of pressure to on one hand be aggressive and be strong, but on another hand, don't act like other black men because it's going to get you locked up. So we're under pressure and at the same time in a state of confusion because we're getting so many messages, which causes on many levels. I feel like an identity crisis almost. Like, what and who should I be or what should I do? So I think that Will Smith, in a way, at that moment, now let me just say this, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not saying this as a fact. I'm saying that this is just my opinion on my interpretation. It appears like he was going through like a brief temporary psychological breakdown, from the pressure he was under. You know what I'm saying? Because all his business is in the media too. And that's another thing that I had put up a YouTube video about that. I tell celebrities, all of them, right? This is the message that I give, all of them, but especially black ones. I know we live in the keep it real, be transparent culture, but just because you're an entertainer and you're in the public eye does not mean that everybody has the right to know about your marriage, your bedroom, your children. People still have the right to privacy. And that's a huge problem that we feel, right? And I've even heard people say this. I've heard professionals say it. Our society feels like, well, if you're in the public eye, it's open season on you. And that's not true. If I'm an entertainer and I sing for you or rap for you or tell jokes, I've done my job. You do not have a right to know the problems in my marriage and what's going on in my bedroom. You do not have that right. Public figures have a right to privacy. The only thing I feel like the public has a right to know is about crimes being committed. Then yeah, people need to know because those are crimes. But the issues in my marriage that can be worked out between me and my wife is up to me and my wife. I think that with the whole red table thing and people knowing about their problems in their marriage, I think Will was under a lot of pressure. He was at the Oscars where he felt like I'm supposed to be celebrating, but I'm feeling all this, pressure and embarrassment. So I think there was a lot of confusion that he was experiencing and pressure. And I think that that's why he reacted like that. But I don't agree with it by no means because, on some levels, Chris Rock was made the bad guy, which I don't think is fair.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. I'm glad you said that because I feel like Chris Rock was made to seem to be the bad guy. When all he did was make a joke doing his job, which all fellow comedians understand that it's a joke. We don't really mean it. And the fact that I'm happy the fact that he did not swing back. He didn't do anything back to this man. He didn't retaliate. He didn't do anything. And I believe as a black man, he made the right move not to, because then he would have been perceived, I believe, not as an animal, but as in a violent type of dude. And Chris Rock was never made to be a violent type of guy. So I'm kind of on board with the way he reacted to it by not reacting to it. Will Smith, I can understand the pressure thing you speak about because there's been times where I've even been in a relationship with a female, and sometimes your manhood can get tested by another man or by the woman you with, something, and the fact that you don't it's a fine line you have to walk when you're trying to find the best reaction for it. And a lot of times you don't want to come off violent, but you don't want to come off soft. And that's where the confusion part comes in at, because it's a damn if you do, damn if you don't situation. So
go ahead.
I was going to say, I kind of attest to what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And that's why I didn't like how the public reacted towards Chris Rock. Particularly some women, not all, but particularly some, like one in particular who was on the Roland Martin show. And I'm sure you're familiar with Roland Martin. Dr. Avery Jones. I believe it's Dr. Avery Jones Druar. I don't know how to pronounce her name, but she was saying, she kind of gave what I thought was a false narrative. Now I do agree with a lot of things that she said about how black women are treated, how black women are disrespected. That is absolutely true, right? And I know that firsthand because, like I said, me being in ministry and in human services, I've had to defend black women and have come in the line of fire for doing it. Even had some of my jobs threatened and really been pushed out of the door. So I do believe that black women are disrespected and their plight needs to be defended. But here's the problem that I have with what Dr. Avery Jones was saying. She was making it seem like comedians really target and disrespect black women. And that's not true, because that's like making it seem like all comedians do is make jokes about black women, when in fact nothing could be farther from the truth. There are so many derogatory jokes about men on TV that we're dumber than our wives, that the only way we could survive is because of our wives' intelligence, that we're all ego, we're not able to think without an ego. There are so many and even more damaging messages about men, because they don't just do them in jokes. They create, I've done some acting before, so I know how people write scripts to create an undertone message, an underlying message. And so there has been a lot of derogatory jokes about men. There's been jokes about Rodney King. There's been jokes about Martin Luther King, right? There's been jokes about prison rape, about men being raped in prison. right? Sexual assault against men. Like when Tupac was in jail, I don't know how many comedians made jokes about him getting raped. It was to the point where in the Vibe interview, Tupac said, you know, he had to write letters to kids who were writing him saying, I'm sorry that you got raped. And a lot of this came from jokes that people were making in the media. To say that, you know, it's all against black women is not true. And even, listen, Will Smith is guilty. I have to be honest, because if you look at his show, one time he made fun of now I don't know who wrote the joke, but one time he made fun of the Joey Buttafuoco, Amy Fisher situation. And that's where I think Joey Buttafuoco's wife, he was cheating on her and she got shot. And it was a white woman. And she ended up getting shot. And Will Smith made a joke about that. He said, knock, knock. And then before the person could say, who is it? He said, bang, because that's actually how it happened. Somebody came to her house. I think it was Amy Fisher. I don't know. I don't remember the case verbatim because it was so long ago. But he made fun of the wife being shot in the head. You know, so I have a problem with the one-sided outrage. Listen, I'm not impressed with how much passion and how firm somebody stands on something. I'm impressed with truth. You could be as passionate and strong-willed as you want to, but if you're wrong, you're wrong. You know, and the issue that I had with Dr. Avery Jones was that, or Dr. Avis Jones, I'm not sure if I'm saying her name correctly, but she was on a Roland Martin show. Yeah, she was on a Roland Martin show saying, oh yeah, I'm so pro Will Smith. And she was justifying violence against a black man for a culture that he did not create. With comedians, they have joked about everyone. And I'm not saying I agree with all comedy. I don't. You know what I'm saying? And I did comedy before. Shout out to Capone and Roberto Castellano because they gave me my first shot at doing comedy. I just didn't stay with it. But my whole point is that I don't agree with all comedy. I don't agree that all jokes are good, right? I would be the first one to say that. But to make Chris Rock the face of that, now that's wrong because there has been edgy comedy long before Chris Rock came into existence. And if it's wrong, then it should have been addressed. But for him to get slapped at the Oscars and him to be made the face of distasteful comedy, particularly against black women, that's wrong because, first of all, for Dr. Jones to say that she's okay with him being slapped, she's a professional woman, so that's a little disturbing for me. I don't care how passionate you are about protecting black women or black men. You can't defend an atrocity. And he didn't just joke on Jada. That was my other issue. He didn't just make jokes about her. If he was targeting her all night, then that's different. But like I said, there have been derogatory jokes about black men. So Rihanna had put up a derogatory post, I believe, about Martin Luther King, where he had gold teeth in his mouth and he was smiling. And I mean, now some people find that funny. I don't, because that man was killed defending our rights. So I don't find it funny. You know what I mean? But I don't find disrespecting black women funny either. I just don't like when people use the plight of black women or any plight to manipulate and express their bias. Like if you don't like men, just say you don't like men, right? And I'm not saying that towards Dr. Jones, but I'm saying that for anybody. If you don't like black people, just say you don't like black people. You don't have to try to attach yourself to a plight. I notice when people want to win arguments, they'll say, well, black women, and they go through this and they think that scares everybody. Like, oh, okay, she mentioned the black women plight. I got to be quiet. You know what I'm saying? But the fact is, Chris Rock was the victim. Chris Rock was slapped on national TV. Jada Pinkett wasn't slapped on national TV. Exactly. Will Smith wasn't slapped on national TV. So it is absolutely wrong to say that you are in support of Chris Rock being slapped in the face publicly, because I mean anywhere, because that's justifying violence, and then that makes me question your authenticity. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care how much you love black women, black men, anybody. You can't, if my child slaps another child, I don't care if that child is white or Chinese, I'm going to tell my child, you're wrong for slapping another human being. I'm going to tell my child that. You know why I'm going to tell them that? Not only because I believe that, but the world, they don't give you too many chances. You know what I'm saying? I already told you that they shot my father, so I have to teach my children. You can't just go around slapping or hitting people, because that is not always going to be here. That could get you taken up off this planet. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I was really uncomfortable with how um the media handled it. I was uncomfortable with how a lot of communities handled it, particularly women. I was uncomfortable with how they was just okay with Chris Rock being slapped simply because they don't like his views. And it's okay not to like his views, but guess what? There are a lot of views from women and black women and all of the above, you know, all women, about men that we don't particularly like, and some are not even fair, to be honest. They're biased and they're stereotypical. Um, but that doesn't mean I should applaud a woman being assaulted,
Yeah.
even if I don't agree with her views. So for a professional woman to be on the Roller Martin show and say what she said, I agreed with a lot of her statements. It was not Jada Pinkett's responsibility to stop Will Smith from doing what he did. Absolutely not. We are grown men. I can't blame my wife if I go out here and do something crazy. However, to make Chris Rock the face of misogynistic comedy is an absolute lie. They made fun of O.J. Simpson and Nicole. I don't remember her last name. I think it's Kidman, but they made they made fun of Nicole Kidman getting killed. There was jokes about that. You know what I'm saying? They made fun of her death. They made fun of Ron Goldman, I believe his name is, him getting killed. They've made jokes about Rock King beating. There's been numerous jokes made about Al Sharpton and all these people. So everybody gets it, and it's not right. I don't agree with all comedy. You know what I'm saying? I've heard people make jokes about Jesus. I'm serious. I've heard people get on the stage and make derogatory jokes about Jesus. Is that wrong? Yeah. Making fun of Jesus, or if somebody believes in Allah and you're making fun of that, that offends some people. But and so I say that to say that to make Chris Rock the poster child of misogynistic comedy and derogatory comedy is absolutely wrong. He should not have been slapped on national television. It's wrong for any woman or any man to say, "Oh, well, you know, Will was defending his black woman," and that this is not about defending black women. This is about a man being assaulted on TV. So that's why I don't like when people use the plight of women because they feel it's the hot topic, and that's going to sway the people to side with them. So they use the plight of black women. But Jada wasn't the one that got slapped. Chris Rock got slapped. He should not have been slapped. I don't care what you tell me. He should not have been slapped. He did not create the comedy culture.
Oh, yeah, that's deep. Damn, yeah, shit. I agree with everything you just mentioned. Yeah, I don't agree with Chris Rock being the face either, because there's plenty of people who did worse than that. Richard Pryor, Red Fox. There's plenty of comedy that was out way before he. Shit, Eddie Murphy had a lot of fucking derogatory comedy in his skits, and to make Chris Rock the face of that, yeah, I agree. I don't think it's right either. And you're right. I don't feel like it's about defending this. Will Smith defending his woman, because the fact that, as you stated, there's pressure being done. So now I feel like he's looking at the media and looking how, what is the outside world going to think? I don't really think Will Smith really wanted to get up. I really don't believe he really wanted to get up and do that. But I believe he was forced to do that because of how the crowd was reacting. And I believe how Jada Pinkett was looking at him as if she's waiting for him to go do something about it. And I feel like him trying to be the husband that he's trying to be to her, the loving husband, the one that wants to do anything he can for her and everything else. I feel like he was put in that position to have to get up to do that. And as I stated, I truly believe he didn't want to do that, which is probably why he ended up apologizing after a while anyway, which I also knew that was coming, and I commend Chris Rock also for accepting the apology, moving on, and not retaliating, because that's what a lot of people wanted him to do. They wanted him to retaliate. They wanted him to swing back and things of that nature. And the fact that he didn't do it shows strength of what a black man actually has, and everything's not about violence and trying to retaliate back. A lot of times, moving on, getting past the situation, understanding a situation, understanding the outside media is enough to tell yourself, you know what, certain things aren't worth it. And I feel like that's what Chris Rock might have told himself in his head, that it's not worth retaliating, because I know how outside media can extend things to what it's actually not. So I'm kind of on board with what you just said.
Yeah, and I just want to make 2 points based on what you said. First, I want to say this. I personally can't say that Jada Pinkett wanted Will to slap him. I did see her roll her eyes, which she had every right to do if she didn't like the joke.
That's what I was getting at with it. She my bad. She kind of gave him a stare down. So I'm not sure if either she wanted him to do that or not, but the stare down she gave him, Will probably could have took it that way, as if, okay, I think she wants me to.
Yeah, he could have took it that way. Yeah, but the other thing is that I wanted to bring out was that when you talked about how Chris Rock did not get violent, yeah, I commend him for that. But it makes me think about, like you said, the pressure. There is a pressure on men, period, but particularly black men, to be tough, strong, and hard. Because listen, we can go back to the days of Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King was criticized because he wouldn't be violent. People did not like him because he wouldn't be violent. Now, he is one of the most famous civil rights leaders in the world, who was criticized, even still today in his death. They won't even let him rest in peace. A lot of people are still saying, oh, you know, that nonviolent way was BS, you know, and a lot of these so-called, no disrespect, but I'm just keeping it real. A lot of these so-called conscious brothers that be like, oh, you know, it's going to take violence. They be making videos from their car, their couch, when the Trayvon Martins and the Jordan Russell Davises and the George Floyds are getting killed. They're not out in the street. Martin Luther King was out in the street going to jail. But, you know, because he was nonviolent, a lot of people spoke about him in a derogatory way. So imagine with the everyday black man who doesn't have Martin Luther King's level of fame or status. Imagine what they get for being nonviolent. And I know people are very quick to say, oh, well, it shouldn't matter. You should just be who you are. And that's what upsets me, because it's like we're challenged to have character that other people don't demonstrate. So I just wanted to make that point.
I agree with everything you're saying. So you're not taking up as much time as you think you are. Because trust me, everything that's being said now needs to be said and needs to be heard. But I'm agreeing with the fact that the pressure that we're under to be tough, strong, egos and everything like that. And I feel like that alone is what makes us seem like we're animals, because we're made to be this way, where every one of our counterparts doesn't have to be that way and still be considered men.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Exactly.
But we have to be this tough guy who wants to fight, shoot, kill, defend, do all of these things. Like, we just can't be providers and that'll be all. You know, providers and security for our own family, at least, you know, make sure our family lives and grow up and do what they do. We can't just be that. We have to be everything under the sun, unless we're not considered a full-blown man.
Right. We got to have swagger. We got to have the biggest penis. We got to, you know what I'm saying? We got to be tough and all of this. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, and this is why we're producing the men that we see in the street. And I often tell people, before you judge that brother in the street, you got to remember, we're producing what we see in the street. It's a reflection of a lot of us. And I'm quoting Dick Gregory. Dick Gregory he said when he spoke at the church, I forgot where the church was, about the Trayvon Martin situation, he did mention what we see in the street is a reflection of us. So when the older people put down the young generation, they have to remember it's a reflection of them. How did you raise them? What type of emotional and mental support did you survive? Did you provide? Excuse me. Because feeding a child, in the words of Shahrazad Ali, feeding a child and giving them a or her a place to is not raising a child. That's maintaining one, and you can maintain a pet.
Wow, yeah, yeah, I agree. That's not raising it. What we see out here in the streets, I tell the same thing. So I have sons. I know you say you have daughters, but I have 2 daughters and I have 4 sons. And I try to tell my sons the same exact thing all the time. I try to show them that you don't have to fight and not do this. It's great to defend yourself, but don't walk around thinking that you have to defend yourself to any and everybody all the time, because then that mind state starts to create the street mentality that we have, where you feel like everyone's out to get you. You have to do this, you have to do that in order to survive. And the fact that we are, I don't want to say that I don't know the book to parenting. I don't know the book or the code to parenting. So we all are just going with what we know and what we were taught, and try to either elevate or try to do something a little different than what our parents did with us. And I see a lot of kids now, and you can look, when you look at the parents sometimes, when you look at how the parents are moving, you tend to see like, okay, now I know why he acts like this. I know why this guy, I know why this female is doing this. She saw her mother doing this, and now she's doing that. She saw her father being like this, and now she's looking for a man that's like that. It's bothersome, but I don't really feel like people are actually taking the time to tell themselves, you know what, it's me. I'm the reason why I'm being this way. If I provided something different for my kid, like you said, just giving a kid a place to stay and do nothing but giving them a roof over their head. If they don't, they're done in the street to come home and at least they have somewhere to sleep. That's all you're doing, but you're not teaching them anything for when they do go back out there. Because eventually we're not gonna be around our kids 24/7.
Right, that's a fact.
So all they can do is take from what they know and apply it to what they're doing outside in the street.
Right.
I'm kind of on board with that. I agree. We need to look at ourselves first, and once we change ourselves, the kids we produce will be a whole different breed of what we're seeing now. Because nowadays it's out of hand, and I mean, hopefully we can reel it back in. But for now, it is what it is on that. But that Will Smith and Chris Rock situation was a very touchy subject for a lot of people, because you have men on one scale and you have the women on the other scale, and you got some people who think some guys are punks for not hitting back, and then some people are saying that they commend him for it. So everything's on the fence with that. So that was good that we got that out the way, because that had to be talked about, had to be spoken about, at least from a positive point of view, because there's a lot of negative thoughts about that topic, and I'm glad you're here to discuss that. Folks, we'll be right back with the next topic. It's your boy Talk Galore. I'm here with Mr. Urban Journalist Richard Adamson II. We'll be back again to give you another topic right after this.
You know, when your mind is cluttered, you know what I'm saying? The streets keep constantly trying to pull you into it. It's crazy, you know? Yeah. These are the chronicles of a soldier. The world around me is getting colder. America seems to want to make me break. How much pressure can a man's mind take? I'm close to the edge, approaching the code red. I stay in the booth trying to clear my head. These are the chronicles of a soldier. The world around me is getting colder. America seems to want to make me break. How much pressure can a man's mind take? I'm close to the edge, approaching the code red. I stay in the booth trying to clear my head. But it's over. But it's over.
Welcome back to the Black Perspective Podcast. It's your host who thinks the most, Talk Galore, and I'm here with Mr. Richard Adamson II, also known as Mr. Urban Journalist, and we are here to discuss another topic with you guys that we had for you, and we're going to talk about my man Kevin Samuels, R.I.P. Okay, Richard, are you familiar with Kevin Samuels?
Yeah, I know who he is. I didn't really follow him like that, but I definitely know who Kevin Samuels is, and I've heard a lot more about him even in his death now.
Okay. Well, I want to discuss the legacy I feel like he left here on Earth. The fact that what he tried to promote, because a lot of people get it mixed up like he was trying to destroy black women. He was trying to downplay black women. And it's like I don't see it that way as him trying to downplay anybody. I just feel like he was trying to promote or bring back the black family. And I feel like people are not realizing that was our strength in America. The one strength that we had that they could not tear apart. And I feel like a lot of laws and things of that nature was changed is because of the strength of the black family. And a lot of women, he had a problem with women wanting men that are not on their level, but trying to downplay the men who are on their level. And I feel like that's what it was. And it was more of a money thing. It's like the women, they wanted money. They wanted a man with money this, a man with money that. He has to make six figures. He had to make this. And they're not in a position to make six figures themselves, but they want a happy relationship and a happy marriage with a man who also makes six figures with them. This is for the women who are making that kind of money. And I've done a previous episode about time versus money when it comes to relationship. And a lot of times, you're not going to really get both. More times than not, you can't get both. So if a man spends a lot of time at work to make the money, he's not going to have time for you. And if you want a man to have a lot of time for you, he's not going to make a lot of money because he's not doing what he has to do to make the money because he's with you. And he's mentioned to a lot of women that they're going to die alone because the way they're thinking. He's not telling them he wants them to die alone, but he said the way the women are thinking nowadays compared to how it was in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, partial of the 90s, before it became, I guess, a new age breed of women that it's going to put in those terms. The legacy he left, I feel like that. Do you feel like it's tarnished, or the fact that it's a growing legacy to the point where a lot of men are taking that into consideration now and looking out for themselves and they're building themselves to be better because of what he stated, or the things he talked about?
I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me to say whether or not his legacy was tarnished because I know he's getting a lot of backlash. Like, people are celebrating his death, but people were against him when he was alive. So I don't know. Did he make some impact? Absolutely, he did. He made huge impact. One of the things that he talked about is how people view levels, like a woman saying, I want somebody on my level. Some men say that. I don't believe in levels because it's derogatory to say to a human being, you're not on my level. I don't care how honest you're trying to be. If your honesty is being disrespectful, then you have to find another way to express your honesty. That's just me, how I feel. But I don't believe in levels. I believe in paths. I don't believe in levels. People's relationships don't work out because they're not on the same path. We both can have college degrees. We both can make six figures. But what people fail to take into consideration is the makeup of a person and the state of a person mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. If we are not, the Bible says, how can two walk together except they be agreed? He doesn't mean agree on money, right? The Bible doesn't, God is not saying agree on money. He means morals, spirituality, mentality, all of the above. So it's not the point of who's on whose level. Now I will say this, right? I don't agree as a man that, because I did see the interview where he said like the girl was like a 5 or something like that, and that really from from what I saw, that was the video that kind of made him popular because people had so much backlash about it. Me as a man, I don't agree that I have a right to say whether or not a woman is a 5 or 10 or define her beauty for her. I don't think I have that right because a woman's beauty and her worth is God-given attributes. So me as a man don't have a right to judge somebody's God-given attributes. The only thing I may be able to criticize is what you do with your God-given attributes, right? But on the flip side, right, you have shows like I've seen some episodes of The View and some other talk shows that's predominantly female that all the narratives about men are derogatory, right? And that's called misandry. Misandry is the opposite of misogyny or misogynistic views. Misandry is hatred of men, right? And that hatred is expressed in honest conversation, like, you know, roundtable discussion and educated people talking about surveys that only fit their ideas and research that only fit their ideas. So long before Kevin Samuels ever existed, I myself, which I'm sure you can attest to, have had to sit through media bashing men. Male bashing is very real and it's justified. But here I go again with that one-sided passion, right? Me as a person who tries to be moral, I'm not for male bashing or female bashing. All of it bothers me. The problem that I have is people get angry after Kevin Samuels, but they don't get angry at you know, the many talk shows and all that that destroy men. Like I'm just giving you an example. Kobe Bryant was dead. The first thing that they started talking about was his rape case. Now, I don't know if he's innocent or not. I don't. I know that he did go to court, but he died, and so did his daughter. He had a daughter that died with him, and then he has a wife and another daughter, I believe, that's still alive that they're trying to grieve, but they brought up his rape case. So they started trying to tarnish him even in death, you know. So, but I didn't see the same type of outrage. People celebrated Kevin Samuel's death because they didn't like him and what he said. And I understand if you don't agree with what he said. I did not agree with everything that he said, right? But again, the one-sided passion and outrage that I have an issue with is that everybody gets up in arms if they feel like somebody is female bashing, and they should. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't feel like female bashing is okay. The issue that I have is that male bashing is not okay either. You know what I'm saying? Martin Luther King, and I know I bring him up a lot, but he was a very moral character in our society. He said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. He also said he doesn't just want to put an end to white supremacy, but he also said that black supremacy is just as dangerous. So what he's saying is that if we don't have a healthy moral, spiritual balance, we are all in trouble. So to see Kevin Samuel's death celebrated just because he spoke his views, that's disturbing. And that's a form of tyranny, psychological, subliminal tyranny. Like, if it's okay for a woman to have an opinion about what she doesn't like about men, but if a man has one, then here we go. We use the plight of black women and the plight of oppressed women to express bias and hate. So you're not really about the upliftment of women, and you're not really concerned about sexism against women. You just don't like that man. So you use that to justify you expressing your hate. And that's just what's done to us by the racist part of this country. They use the crimes and the statistics about our crimes like Larry Elder does. Larry Elder gives half or partial statistics, and it makes it sound real, and he justifies why it's okay for the Trayvon Martins and everybody to get killed, right? So it's okay for black men to be derogatory spoken of, but or it's okay for you know, women and black women to express what they don't like about men or the black man. But if a man expresses what he's uncomfortable with from the opposite sex, it's looked at as an attack. Now that's unfair because that's a form of tyranny. Now, if he's being derogatory, like I said, I don't agree that I should call a woman a 5 or a 7 or whatever, right? But the same thing is done to us, right? Growing up, I would hear females say, "Oh, he's a 5." Or he doesn't have any swagger, or his game is weak. You know, we had to endure all this and have to have thick skin, but we can't have an opinion. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not an opinion driven guy. There's certain situations where I won't even have an opinion. I just think only the facts matter. But what disturbed me about, I guess, what they're doing to him is that they're celebrating his death simply because they didn't like his views, and they're accusing him of hatred towards women, hatred towards black women, when he's responding to a lot of the hateful things that are said about black men in particular. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yep. That's exactly what it is.
there's a lot of false, yeah, there's a lot of false narratives out there about men. Like, case in point, I don't believe in emasculation, right? I don't believe that there is any such thing, right? Because I think the definition of emasculation is to deny a man his male role in a relationship or the family, whatever it is, right? But just like I said about a woman, femininity and beauty are God-given attributes. A man cannot define those or take them away from her. No woman, no person has the power to emasculate me, right? And people think that I'm being egotistical when I say that, but I'm actually defending women when I say it too, because I can't blame a woman if I don't feel masculine enough. A woman doesn't want me to play the role as the man, then guess what? That might not be the relationship for me, or I may need to make a decision, but I'm not emasculated. I haven't lost any masculinity, but that is put out into the media and social media as a narrative to get men to engage in self-inflicted powerlessness, because I'm nobody holds the power of my masculinity in their hand. A woman does not have the power to take away my masculinity. And I think that Kevin Samuels was refuting some of these ideas. He was just simply saying, I don't care how you as a woman assess me or rate me in your view about being on your level. He was simply saying, you don't have that power to define my worth as a man. So your opinion and your assessment of me is invalid, especially when you don't have the same things you're requiring me to have. Not just materialistic, but you want me to have relationship skills that you don't demonstrate. You know what I'm saying? And I think I heard him saying that one time. It's like he was basically saying, you want me to have relationship skills that you don't demonstrate at all. You challenge me to have character that you don't demonstrate. So let me get this straight. No matter what you do to me or say to me, I'm just supposed to be a man and take it. And he refuted those ideas and he was like, no. Now, did I agree with how he said it all the time? No, because like I said, there's a proper way to communicate. But we've been victims of the same thing. I had to sit and be so disappointed at this episode of The View when I saw, I think her name is Sunny Houston, if I'm saying it correctly. And I was a supporter of The View, but when I heard this, it was just so disappointing that to know that even some of the women that I looked up to and respected can be sexist. But they were talking about how men don't like intelligent women. They look for women who are less smarter than they are, or they are intimidated by women who are more successful than them or make more money. And I'm like, first of all, that's a lie, right? That's not true. I don't care what surveys you've done. All these surveys are questionable because we live in a sexist society. But you're speaking for men. And one of the things that I've experienced in my society, and I think that has brought the Kevin Samuels into existence, is that we as men are tired of people speaking for us. A woman can't speak to the experience of a man. You're not a man. You've never been one. Just like I can't speak to the experience of a woman. But to say that we look for women that are less intelligent so that we can feel strong, not only is an insult, but it's just not true. That's a lie. You know, some people do that, and all people that do that are not men. You have women that do the same thing. You have men. People take advantage of people. That's just the reality. It doesn't matter what gender you are. If that's your character, that's your character. But I think that everybody, but women in particular, have to look at the fact that society has produced a Kevin Samuels. Things that we're doing are producing the type of men that we see today. So I think he was just a guy that got tired of these false narratives being put out there by the sexist part of our society. Now, I will say this. I am not against feminism. I think feminism is necessary. The problem that I have is that people who attach themselves to these movements and these plights to express their hate in a sneaky way. So it's not feminism that's bad. It's the people that infiltrate these plights and these movements that get into it to express their hate. That's why, again, I'm bringing up Martin Luther King again, but that's why Martin Luther King, you could see on one of his interviews, he's saying, listen, we're going to do a march, but we're going to do it non-violently and peacefully. And he told people, he said, listen, I understand that we're fighting for black rights and civil rights. He said, but if you cannot be non-violent and peaceful and not be hateful, don't come into my movement. Don't come to the march, because he didn't want people attaching themselves to the civil rights movement to express hate, which is what you see now. And so I think that Kevin Samuels was a man that got tired of hearing all this male bashing and all these false narratives being put out there about men. That's just not true. Men do not go around looking for women who can't think or who are not smart. All women are smart. It's just what you do with your smarts. Case in point, I used to have debates with people all the time, which I really don't debate because it's a waste of time. But my wife, when we got together, my wife is an Iona University alumni. She had her master's and a couple of other degrees. She made more money than me in the beginning. That never intimidated me because we love each other, right? But you know what people say to me all the time? Oh, well, that's just you. Now that people are so tied up in their bias that they're willing to make a silly statement like that. That is so unintelligent, because you can't sit here and tell me that I'm the only man or one of the only men that's able to be with a strong woman. That's just, but that's what people would say to me. Well, that's just you, Richard. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense at all.
It doesn't.
But real men don't get a chance to speak. You either have men that agree with all of these false narratives, or you have women speaking for us as men, telling other people how we feel. You're intimidated. You're scared of a strong woman. You don't like smart women. Well, you're telling me how I feel. If I were to do that as a man, that would be looked at as sexist and misogynistic. You see, so there is a double standard. And I think the response to Kevin Samuels shows a double standard. You can disagree, and you can even point out some areas where he may have been wrong. I get it. But to celebrate the man dying and having a heart attack, that's hate. That's hateful. And it just expresses the double standard. So is his legacy tarnished? I don't know, because when people express hate towards him, I think that sadly they are proving his point. So by spewing all this hate about him, no, it's okay. By expressing all this hate about him, they're proving his point. So they're actually keeping his legacy alive in a way. That's the best answer that I could give you. But did I agree with everything that he said? No, I didn't. I'm not going to lie to you.
No, you don't have to. That's one thing we don't do on the show is lie. So you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, I can agree to the point of not agreeing with everything he said, because I believe what's a 5 to 1 man might be a 10 to somebody else. So I'm not really about the whole rating people, because I feel like nobody's a 10. I don't care who you are on this earth, nobody's a 10. And if you are a 10, you're a 10 to somebody's eyes. If you're not a 10, you're a 10 to somebody. Right. So, and I feel like love builds that number 10. You know what I'm saying? Like, somebody could be a 5 to anybody, but if I love this person enough, that's a 10 in my eyes. You get what I'm saying?
Of course. And that's exactly what I'm saying, Brother Galore. Like, they got mad at him because he rated women. Listen, I concur. But men have been rated all the time by what's in their pockets.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm gonna end this Kevin Samuels note on this segment on this note. For the ladies that's listening, for the gentlemen that's listening, it was never, as Mr. Adamson said, you can bring these kind of guys out when you continue to bash a certain gender. Because there are plenty of women who are starting movements because they feel like men are bashing women. So the fact that there are men nowadays that are coming out and trying to defend us, because it's not enough for us being defended, because the way the world is now, I feel like they're pushing men down.
the world is pushing men further and further down, and the only way for us to stay above or stay afloat is for us to push ourselves back up. So guys like Kevin Samuels are doing that. Once again, we don't agree with what everything he says, but the man is not fully wrong in what he does say. So we're going to end the Kevin note, excuse me, the Kevin Samuels on that note, and we'll begin with our next segment right after this.
You know, when your mind is cluttered, you know what I'm saying? The streets keep constantly trying to pull you into it. It's crazy, you know? Yeah. These are the chronicles of a soldier. The world around me is getting colder. America seems to want to make me break. How much pressure can a man's mind take? I'm close to the edge, approaching the code red. I stay in the booth trying to clear my head. These are the chronicles of a soldier. The world around me is getting colder. America seems to want to make me break. How much pressure can a man's mind take? I'm close to the edge, approaching the code red. I stay in the booth trying to clear my head. But it's over. But it's over.
What up, what up, what up? We back again. Last segment for the night, last segment for the episode. We want to get into TD Jakes, coming from Talk Galore. I'm here once again with Mr. Richard Adamson II, that's known also as urban journalist for those who listen to positive music. I want to jump in, Mr. Adamson, with TD Jakes. I want to end this one on a TD Jakes note. And Father's Day, he had a sermon that went viral that he also received backlash from, but he also received a lot of praise for it because he spoke truth. I felt like he was speaking the truth about what was what and how this world is actually built in society and what it should be and how it's supposed to act and what you give is what you receive type of thing he was speaking on. And he received a lot of bad backlash about it. For those who don't know exactly what we're speaking about, I'm going to leave a link in the description box of this video on the YouTube and on the podcast platform so that you can click the link and actually listen to the full sermon yourself. It's a beautiful sermon. I've enjoyed it myself. I've actually listened to it twice just to let you know how good I believe the sermon was and how true it was. And as a man, I also shed a few tears listening to what he said. So with that being said, he's receiving bad backlash with this. How do you feel about the fact that there's not too many people really interpreting what he's trying to say correctly to the point where now they're turning his message into something bad instead of what it's supposed to be intended for, which is good?
I mean, here's my thing. People listen with intent. So you have people that's purposely offended. You have people that's gonna, I feel like anytime a man speaks about what he's uncomfortable with about the opposite sex, instead of it really being assessed and thought about and processed, a lot of times the biased part of our society just looks for ways to refute it. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard a lot of the sermon. But correct me if I'm wrong, I don't ever remember him saying black men in particular. I don't ever remember him saying that. However, all of the backlash that I have seen, they're saying, oh, he's attacking black women. And I'm saying that never came out of his mouth. So again, there's been a narrative thrown out there that isn't true, which is done to a lot of men. A lot of men are accused of being sexist and misogynistic if they express their point of view. Now, if you're calling women the B word and you're calling women hoes, and then you're saying freedom of speech, that's wrong. Because there's a difference between freedom of speech and reckless speech, right? Reckless speech is derogatory. But I only heard him say he's seeing, right? Whether we agree or not. And some of what he's saying is true. Because if like, that narrative, like I said before, about
women being intimidating to men and all that. Like, people create our narratives for us nowadays. We don't get to speak for ourselves. I'm not intimidated by strong women. But if I say that, people are going to be like, yes, you are. Just like the narrative that black men have the biggest egos. That's not true, because if anything, our self-esteem has been impacted the most, right? They say things like, all we do is think about sex. That's not true. As a black man, when I get up in the morning, I pray not to be shot by the cops, not to be shot by another black man, not to be falsely accused of rape. So there's a whole lot of things, right, that I think about as a black man that has nothing to do with sex. So I have an issue with when a black man expresses, or any man, but a black man in particular, expresses how he truly feels and what he needs from the black woman or any woman. It's looked at as misogynistic. I think that that's wrong. And again, I think that's a form of subliminal and psychological tyranny. Because how do you expect men to be in a marriage or be in a relationship when their narrative is created for them? The woman gets to express how she feels and define herself, but then she also is portrayed as the one who has so much insight that she can tell you what you're feeling, what you're intimidated by, and that you don't like strong black women. And, you know, and even like I was looking at, I'm trying to remember, there was a show that I saw recently that talked about T.D. Jakes. I think it's called Cocktails with Queens. We had Miss Selena Jones and the other lady, I can't remember her name, but she was the lady from the Players Club. But she said something in response to T.D. Jakes' sermon. She was like, oh, well, the man asks the woman to come to the table and put together what they have, and if the woman has more, then the man gets upset. And I'm like, of course you would say that. If you get to tell the story, that's the picture you're going to paint. But I think it's a little deeper than that. I can speak for myself as a man. I'm going to be the man, the protector. I'm going to take care of my wife. I don't care how successful she is, what she has. She can have the bag. She can have all that. That doesn't define who I am as a man, what I am as a man, and what my role is. A woman's success doesn't intimidate me out of understanding my own role. But that's the narrative that is put out there. So when a lot of these marriages don't work, it's not because the woman made more money. It's other stuff, but they don't talk about that, and the truth is not told. So when T.D. Jakes got up in his church and said what a lot of people don't say, I think people got uncomfortable. But you know what? Too bad. You know, you can't expect a society to grow and for the next generations to get better if we get comfortable pushing false narratives and lies.
Exactly.
You know, that's bad, and it's unhealthy because it's really not true. And these false narratives are splitting up families.
Yeah, I agree, because there's one part of the sermon when he was saying how a man pours into his woman, and as you stated, I feel like he was never speaking about money. It's more of the nurturing factor that women have, the nurturing factor that women are born with. That's, no matter how much money you have, you still have to give that nurturing to your husband or your man or whoever you're dealing with at the time. And the more you give him, the more he will return back to you. He will fill your glass up. The fact that he will take care of you, he will do his best, he'll protect you, whatever it is, you will be his priority. And I feel like a lot of women are taking that wrong because society is so struck on money. Everybody's just so stuck on money, and everything's about money. Where when people are giving you messages or they're trying to tell you something, it's never about money what they're telling you. Money comes and goes, right, with you being happy, having a relationship, having a fun life, having a loving life. It starts from within. It don't start from the outside, which is the money. And a lot of people are, like I said, they're twisting what he's saying wrong. He's not telling women don't make money. He's not telling you not to do this, that, and the third. But a lot of women, they get with a man. They know he doesn't have as much as they do. So now you chose to get with him, but you also don't have respect for him, according to you. And now you're constantly disrespecting this man
You're telling him he ain't shit. You're telling him he's not this, he's not that. He can't do this for you. He can't do that for you. And then when the man steps out to be with a woman who feels like this man can still be a man to her despite what she has, women get upset. They're getting bitter. They this and the third, and it causes a big problem. And the fact that now you're losing your protection, your love, whatever it is that man could have had for you, you lost out on it. Because let's just say you wasn't given a man who, I guess, has the money, but let's say he's not a protector. He's not this, he's not that. He's missing all the qualities that this man that you mistreated had. Now, all you had to do was show the same man the fact that the loving that comes from a woman. And in return, he's going to want to take care of you. He's going to want to do his best. He's going to want to uplift himself if he's down or whatever it is. He's going to want to do better for himself even more to make sure that he's there for you because he's pouring onto you because of what you given him, what you provided him. And it has nothing to do with money. And a lot of people are misconstruing that. And T.D. Jakes is a very credible person. I mean, he's very credible. So for them to downplay what this man is saying or try to find a way, because once again, I feel like if this was a Mother's Day sermon and he was promoting women the way he was trying to do the men, it would be a different ball game. But the fact that he did it on Father's Day and it's about fathers and men doing this and how women and men need to get together. Because at the end of the day, he's bringing up the fact that we need to be together. We need to find a way to make things relationships, and we're constantly trying to separate the two, try to separate women and men. And I feel like this is the cause of this gender war that we're having nowadays with men versus women instead of men and women. So
because you I'm sorry, you have those that in our society that capitalize on us being against each other, and so they have to understand that men have a right to express their needs and what they feel too. It's not being misogynistic or anything. In fact, it's doing what we've been told to do for years. Stop trying to be so tough and express yourself. And then this is why we don't express ourselves. Again, we produce the men that you see out here. Don't express yourself, but be human and keep it real at the same time. And my thing is, it's a very derogatory process that men have gone through for a long time to audition for the love and affection of a woman, to show that we got the swagger, we got the paycheck, and all of that. So,
I agree. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to jump back into what you were saying about the man having the right to express his needs, because it's a double-edged sword. They want us to, especially in a relationship, they want us to say how we feel, let them know how we're feeling as what we need, because they get upset when we keep things to ourselves. And then when we do express what we need, there's backlash back. They get upset, things of that nature, because we're asking for too much or something. Sometimes it can be some of the simplest things. And the fact that as a man, us bringing it up, it tends to downgrade us as being a security blanket, I guess, for them, because I guess we have feelings all of a sudden where we've always had feelings, but growing up as a kid, you're told not to cry. You're told not to express yourself. If you cry, you're a punk. If you do this, you're a punk. If you do that, you're a punk. If you tell your woman you need to stand in third, a lot of girls will make you feel like you're a punk girl. So now you grow with this mentality where you can't express yourself at all. So now that I feel like men now are going back to expressing themselves, and they're not letting that narrative dictate what we are and who we are now. So I'm kind of on board with the expressing how you feel. And that's for all men out there. If you're listening, do not be afraid to express how you feel, because if she can express how she feels to you, you should be able to do the same back, and you both should be able to work on what it is that you both need from one another. But to finish on the T.D. Jakes note, like I said, he's very credible. I agree with everything he said, every single thing. And I can't always tell myself I can agree with anything and everything somebody said, but this sermon, I have to agree with everything that this man said, because if people actually put this into effect, if a lot of women start to pour onto their men, to give onto their man so that their man can pour back into them, then we'll see a lot more black love. We'll see a lot more white love. We'll see a lot more Spanish love. We'll see a lot more Asian love. We'll see a lot more love, period, around this world. And the men and women can reciprocate each other and allow each other to help each other grow, build, instead of
okay, since you don't have what I have, and I'm coming in with this, and you're coming in with that, now I have to downplay you and then get upset when you're talking to this person now, you're doing this, or you're not being who I wanted you to be because of. And people not realizing when you downplay somebody or you dog them or you say stuff, because you don't have to necessarily step out in a relationship. But if you're dogging somebody constantly and you're talking down on them, that can mess up their self-esteem, and they might never want to get themselves together because they might take what you're saying because they may love you enough to feel like, okay, damn, what if this is true? Now I start to doubt myself as a human because the person I'm loving is telling me what they're telling me. But it plays a big part in that.
Yeah, well, first of all, the backlash that TD Jakes is getting, the reason why I think it's unfair is because when TD Jakes puts out sermons and books that tell men what they need to change, you know, he's applauded. But the one time he says what men feel they need to express and what they need from women, now he's being like trashed, and it bothers me. It bothers me that we can't have a voice, but at the same time, it bothers me how our image is degraded if we say what we're not happy with. Now, again, I do believe that there's a difference between freedom of speech and reckless speech. And let me just say this about reckless speech. Just because you are not cursing me out, calling me names, doesn't mean that you're not being disrespectful. There is intellectual disrespect, which men go through all of the time, right? TD Jakes simply shared what he felt. And a lot of the comments I read on Facebook, on other social media platforms, they started to say, oh, he's talking to his own family. So now they're degrading his family, saying, oh, the mess is in his house. Nobody's family is perfect, okay? But I think it's wrong to attack the man because he spoke what he feels that the opposite sex could change, or it's okay for a man to be criticized by a woman, right? Because in our society, we value a man's money and aggression more than his intelligence, right? In our society, we value women's intelligence more. So that's the underlying bias. Just because we may feel like women are smarter, that doesn't mean that a man does not have a brain and that he does not have the ability to express what he's uncomfortable with from the opposite sex and what he feels could change for the better. So many times we're not valued for our intelligence. But like I said, um, I don't believe in emasculation, right? I don't believe it exists. You cannot emasculate me. You cannot disrespect me to the point where I question my masculinity or whether or not I'm a man. I might not like it, it might hurt, but it doesn't change my understanding of who I am. Secondly, regardless to how you rate me as a woman, regardless of how a woman rates me, right? You do not get to disrespect me. You do not get to be mean to me. I'm my mother's child. I'm somebody's child, and I'm fearfully and wonderfully made by God. Just like we are taught about women. I don't believe in the rating system, right? I don't believe this narrative about, oh, not on my level, I want somebody on my level. It's not about levels, it's about the path of the two people, right? And it's about the moral and spiritual understanding of the two people. Like I said, we could both have degrees, but I have degrees, my wife has degrees, but what keeps us together is that we're on the same path spiritually and morally and mentally. We don't agree with everything, but we're able to coexist and show that black love matters. You know what I'm saying? That black love is real. Um, but for people to attack, going back to TD Jakes, for people to attack him because he shared his opinion, well, that just shows you how black men's intelligence is not valued, and neither is our person. Neither are we as a whole. Because, like I said, we're killed in the streets by police. We're killed by our own, and then we can't express our pain. Black men are emotionally neglected. Men are emotionally neglected. Are women told don't cry, be strong? Of course they are. But with us, it's attributed completely to our gender. That's the difference. When women are told that, it's because the world is mean, men are bad. You know what I'm saying? That's how the narrative is given. That's what narrative is given. But when men are told don't cry, it's because of your gender. That's a different message.
Yes, it
If
is.
you have a penis between your legs, you have to be tough, and that's wrong. And so when men do ask for affection, and I'm not talking about sex, but when men do ask for hugs and emotional support, there is a very degrading process that we have to go through before getting it, or if we even get it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not just speaking my opinion, I'm speaking from experience. As like I said the last time I was on your show, I was assaulted by a teacher in school, and basically everybody was like, well, what did you do? You're a young black kid, you had to do something for that grown person to punch you in your head. So this is why a lot of black men grow up with identity crisis and trauma. And so we see it because here we have a preacher who's done a lot of good in the black community and in the world. And because he expressed a feeling or a point of view, he's being attacked and demonized. Now he's sexist. I think Tasha K had said he's trying to be the next Kevin Samuels. I don't know if that's really what he was trying to do.
But he's been
I
here
doubt that,
before
but
Kevin. That's the thing. He's been here way before Kevin even just thought of. So for,
thank you.
for Tasha, I feel like she's going for clout. I think I have to look that up, that Tasha K, if it was her, because I feel like that's asinine in itself. He was here before. I mean, he'd been promoting unity for years before this even happened. He just gave a separate sermon on Father's Day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but you know what? People can only handle the truth if it's in their favor. And that's the problem in our.
Very well put. Yes, I agree. That's very well put.
Yeah, so that's what I think is wrong when about how people are responding to TD Jakes. People always claim they're so in love with truth. Our society does that all the time. Speak the truth, but people like truth when it fits their narrative and their argument. But when the truth exposes where they might be going wrong, um, then problem. And that's what I see with a lot of the biased women, because not all women are like this, but with a lot of the biased women in our society, they're all for truth when it's about what the man needs to do, but or needs to fix, or what's wrong with him. But then, when it comes to them learning about where they go wrong, it's like, oh no, that's hatred towards women. And that's lying on a person. Because I say I disagree with what the opposite sex does in certain situations, does not say that I hate women. And to lie on me or to lie on TD Jakes and say that, that's just wrong. And that's why it bothered me a little bit when Tasha K has said, was he trying to be the next Kevin Samuels, and was he really talking about his own life and wife and all that? And I'm like, wow, just for expressing what he felt. Um, every male opinion is not misogyny or toxic masculinity. And first of all, there's no such thing as toxic masculinity. If it's toxic, it's not masculinity. Okay. Um, so it just bothers me how men are portrayed. Just even when they do talk about marriage, like they'll say things like she's worth the wait, talking about waiting for sex. Like, well, I've been married 13 years. When I was waiting to marry my wife, I wasn't waiting just to have sex. You know what I'm saying? There's other needs that I have besides sex. But when they say things like worth the wait, they create a narrative. Again, the false narratives created about a lot of men is that they're just waiting to have sex with her. And that actually makes no sense. And that creates a psychological message about marriage to the younger generation. So we have to be careful. The messages that we send out, we really have to be careful, because and that's why I think you have or you had your Kevin Samuels and TD Jakes expressing certain things, because the real men in our society are like, hey, we can't continue to let these false narratives be created. Now, of course, everybody doesn't approach the situation correctly, but we produce, when you have bias in one area and you allow it, it's going to produce more bias. It's going to produce more controversy. Excuse me, controversy. It's going to produce more conflict. And so that's what you're seeing. Um, it's sad, but like I said, um, in so many ways, a man cannot express his view, and a lot of times that comes with comparing suffering too. Like remember growing up, every time I expressed some emotional pain, I always had to be told, like, well, women go through it more. I'm not saying they don't. However, we're not keeping score here. I'm just simply expressing myself. Do we ever get a moment to talk about the sexual abuse of boys? Right? Some people don't even acknowledge that that even happens. The domestic violence against men. Some people don't deny that. Some people don't even acknowledge that that happens. And so, men of today, our mindset is a little different because I often tell people, men in my generation, we've never experienced male dominance. We know that it has existed, but me as a black man I have never experienced male dominance, right? Because black men do not dominate our society, right? So on a social and economic level, we don't have power like that. Um, but also I grew up in the feminist era, you know what I'm saying, where predominantly women had the power in a lot of places, even though you still have certain structures that are male dominated, but it's mostly white male. You follow me? So there's a lot of reasons why the TD Jakes and the Kevin Samuels and the other people express certain opinions and experiences because these are narratives and things that are not talked about. And again, like I said, Kevin Samuels in particular, I didn't always agree with his approach because, like I said, I don't believe in rating human beings. I wouldn't want somebody rating me. You know what I'm saying? When women have done it to me, it's like I said, it's derogatory. When women rate you like, oh, he's trying to talk to me, I'll be nice to him, but he don't have a chance in the world because he's not on my level. He's not a 10, or he's not this, he's not that. That's a derogatory statement. And men have had to undergo derogatory uh messages to them for years. Like I said, all these gurus who talk about how to impress women and how to keep your wife interested, they don't understand that those are derogatory statements because it's like I got to figure out how to gain her affection, something that I should be getting anyway. I
Exactly.
shouldn't have to audition. I shouldn't have to audition or go to an expert to get you to love me and be interested in nurturing me emotionally and what I have to face in this world. I got to go to an expert and pay some money or read a book to understand my woman or to get what I deserve. It's terrible. So that's why you hear TD Jakes and other men speaking the way they speak.
I agree. That was very, very, very articulately put together. I agree with everything you said. So I can't refute it. I don't think I can even add on to it because I feel like you pretty much hit every nail on the head. But with that being said, this is the first return episode of Black Perspective Podcast. This is your host, Talk Galore. I'm here with Mr. Richard Adamson II, known also as Mr. Urban Journalist. I'll be back again with some more episodes and some more interviews and guests on the show as we talk about the topics that need to be spoken about. As I said again, I speak on positivity. This is not a negative podcast at all. One love to those and everyone who supports, follows, subscribes, likes, and engages with this podcast itself. You're very appreciated. And on that note, the show is over for this evening. You guys make sure you take care of each other and yourselves.
Yes.